Hello and welcome to France 24's weekly music show. I'm Marjorie Hache and my guest today began singing at the age of 14 and has since toured the world playing the most famous opera houses with a particular affection for the city of Vienna, where she has spent a lot of time. Her repertoire is wide, from Mozart's Don Giovanni to film soundtracks like Tom Tykwerk's Das Parfum. Our guest this week is Israeli operatic soprano Chen Reiss. Chen, thank you so much for being in the France 24 studios.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure because you've just released a new album, Fanny Hansel, Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, Arias Lieder, Overtures with the Jewish Chamber Orchestra of Munich. Now, this is an incredible exploration and feat, and one of the first questions I like to talk about is that behind this body of work that dates back from the 19th century is Fanny Hensel, who was in fact Felix's sister, and they had the same musical education and upbringing, and she composed just as much as him, but because of the time, a lot of her work was either put in under his name or obscured. Can you tell us a little bit more about her story?
Well, exactly. You said everything so brilliantly. I like to say Fanny Hansel and her brother, Felix. She was actually the older sister and just as talented, played the piano. She was brilliant. And from a very young age, she started composing. But her father, who was a prominent Jewish banker in Germany, at the beginning of the 19th century, Abraham Mendelssohn, told her that music will be only an ornament for you, whereas for your brother, it's going to be his profession. And Felix was at the time one of the most celebrated conductors and composers in Europe, and his sister had to stay home. She accepted that. She had a very happy marriage, and she had a son, and composed. 1 year before her death, she actually managed to publish her Opus 1 under her name. And about 30 years ago, researchers and singers and other musicians started to perform her music more. And then we actually discovered that a lot of the songs and also famous pieces like the Easter Sonata, which was attributed to her brother Felix, actually she wrote it. And she had a very poetic language, so one hears this poetic tenderness and sweetness, but never kitsch. And I was introduced to her orchestral music by Daniel Grossman, the founder and artistic director of the Jewish Chamber Orchestra Munich. And we decided to make a CD with rarely recorded pieces, originally orchestrated by her, and songs which we decided to orchestrate.
Well, how about we check out one of the tracks on this beautiful album that you have recently produced? Fanny Hansel getting her just credit finally, I would like to say. Chen, do you think there were many other women in that situation who were composers but not credited, or it was put to men? I know it happens in art a lot.
Yes, I'm sure that they were. The story of Fanny is very interesting because of the social class from which she came. Yeah, she came from a rich family. She was not allowed to work, whereas Clara Schumann, for example, had to work to support her big family. So she was a celebrated pianist all over Europe. Fanny could have done the same, but it wasn't expected from a woman of that class. So it was a blessing and a curse in that sense. Thank God that today we women in most parts of the world can be expressive and can give credit to other women from the past.
And did you get a lot of say and choice in picking the pieces and orchestral pieces that were on this compilation that you've just produced?
Yes, absolutely. So Daniel and me together, we put it together, and it was a fascinating journey. And I think that the CD is a fascinating window to the artistic life and relationship of these two immensely talented siblings, Felix and Fanny. On the CD are also dramatic scenes and overtures by Felix. And it's really interesting to see how they influenced each other musically, but also how each one of them has its own language and is a composer, you know, very different.
Because it is dialogue constantly with music.
Yeah.
And any plans to take this body of work on tour around the world?
Yes, absolutely. So we've had already one concert in Munich, and we have a tour planned for 2023 for different cities in Germany, Austria, Romania, maybe even Switzerland. So absolutely, I think the public is going to love it.
And what about yourself? Do you have any other projects you can tell us about? Because this one is already a huge, a good way to explore her work, but also yours. I think it's a good gateway, if I may say. But what are your other own personal projects?
Actually, there are a lot of projects coming up. I'm constantly learning new pieces. I'm going at the end of the month to record a very interesting cantata by Schrecker, Franz Schrecker, written in 1927. There are plans for tours in Spain and Brussels and Vienna, and a lot in Germany, also singing a new piece by Schumann, a new piece for me by Schumann, Das Paradiesum di Peri, which I'm very excited. And obviously come back to Israel, my homeland, to open the next season of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra with Beethoven Ninth and with Bach Magnificat. And in France, I will also sing Beethoven Ninth this summer at the Berlioz Festival with the Orchestre Philharmonique de Radio France. Really looking forward. Being in France is always delightful.
Yeah, no, and they're a good orchestra to play with, of course. Chen, how about we take a look at some of all the other new releases that are coming out this week? And we're going to start up with a lady who likes to hit the high notes as well, Florence Welsh, aka Florence and the Machine. And she's back with her 5th studio album entitled Dance Fever. Here's one of the latest videos featuring British actor Bill Nighy, who plays her anxiety. Yes, her anxiety. Let's go. And you can catch Florence and the Machine at a number of European festivals this summer, like Mad Cool in Spain and Oya Festivalen in Norway. She'll be touring the US solidly in September. Chen, you started singing at the age of 14. You became an opera singer. Why did you choose opera in particular as opposed to being a pop star like Florence? Well,
well, the story goes like this. When I was born, I yelled so loudly that the doctor handed me to my mother and said, "Here, take your opera singer." So I think that he destined me to be an opera singer. My mother is a classical singer, so I grew up with classical music. But I must admit that my favorite singer is not an opera singer.
Who is
and
it?
she's French, and she's very famous, and it's Edith Piaf.
Fantastic. Also a very good set of lungs, I must say.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, how about we move over to some Nigerian pop now? Obi Yangiare, who is currently based in London. He's worked with American rapper Danny Brown, British rapper Lil Sims, and Afrobeat producer SARS. And his debut album, Some Nights I Dream of Doors, Encores comes out this week. It mixes soulful spoken word, Afrobeat, and is tinted with spiritual and electro tones. Here's one of the singles, Message in a Hammer.
I have seen the future. In the future you want. We have been reborn. To build you must destroy. I don't want peace, so we don't talk to retire. I won't say please, so if I fire, we fire. We are the people, we won't sit and be quiet. Government devils, all of them liars, all of them liars, all of them. President, governor, senator, commissioner, ambassador, minister, treasurer, advisor, judge.
And that brings us to the end of Encore's music show. Chen Reiss, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk to us here on the France 34 studio. Check out her incredible new record, Fanny Hansel, Felix Mendelssohn, Bartholdy, Arias Lieder, Ouverture. Now, the latest news bulletin is coming up just around the corner here on France 24, so stay tuned. And remember, you can catch all our culture news on france24.com and, of course, social media, Encore F24. That's the handle you need to look for. We're going to play out with a Japanese pianist, Koki Nakano, whose new album, Oceanic Feeling, explores movement and music. This video is taken from the new album and features French choreographer Nicolas Huchard, who has worked with the likes of Angèle, Christine and the Queens, and even Madonna. It's absolutely beautiful.